You've got reaction from 2016 presidential candidate, New Jersey Governor Christie is what's going on.
We do, and Frank Luntz is here. We're going to do a live focus group, and we've got a nice audience in Studio D, and they're going to ask the governor some questions in a minute. But first, Governor, let's start with horror down in the western part of Virginia. Some are already calling for more gun control measures. What do you think?
Listen, first off, the deaths are an awful tragedy. But let's focus on what the real problem is. We're not enforcing the law in this country. No. We've got plenty of laws on the books to deal with gun violence. We just don't enforce them. And this president and this administration hasn't enforced them. And when I was in the Justice Department as U.S. Attorney for 7 years, we enforced gun laws, felons in possession of guns who are committing crimes. We put more of those folks in jail than in previous years. But this administration is not doing it. And yet the call is for more laws. I don't think we need a bigger government, more laws. I think we need the government to actually do their job.
This is a for your money, is this a mental health issue and not a gun control question?
It's both a mental health issue and a lawlessness issue. I mean, the fact is that we're setting a message, this president's setting a message that you only enforce the laws that you like or that you agree with. And we see this with sanctuary cities. Sure. Says to cities, you don't have to enforce the immigration law if you don't like it. He says it on marijuana. If you live in Colorado or Washington, you don't like the marijuana laws, you don't have to have to abide by them. And now on guns, his immediate reaction is twofold, right? We just heard it. The first one is, that we need more laws. I don't agree with that. I think we need to actually enforce the ones we have in the books now. And the second thing he says is that this is worse than terrorism. I don't know that anybody in America believes that they feel more a threat by something like this than they feel a threat by ISIS or by other terrorist groups around the world.
People do feel afraid.
Oh, there's no question.
So what do you say to voters? Because there's a greater degree of insecurity today than there has been at any point in the last decade. What do you say to voters?
That the first job of the President of the United States is to protect the lives of the American people. And that means enforcing the law strictly and directly and fairly. And that's what I did for 7 years as U.S. Attorney before I became governor. And it's the same thing I'd do if I were president.
All right, let's step right over here. Frank has brought together a bunch of people from the New York City area. We've got Democrats, we've got Republicans, we've got independents. We're going to talk now a little about immigration, because I don't know if you've seen the television lately. There's a lot of Donald Trump. He's talking about a wall. Watch this.
And you do a beautiful, nice precast plank with beautiful everything, just perfect. I want it to be so beautiful, because maybe someday they're going to call it the Trump wall, maybe.
We have to bring them out, and if they're wonderful people, which I'm sure they will be, and we have so many wonderful people, we'll bring them back in an expedited fashion.
How many of you believe that immigration in America is a crisis right now, that it really is that much? So it's almost all of you. What are you afraid of?
Well, I think there's no, we have porous borders. There's no control of the people who are coming in. And then we have very good and talented people who are trying to come in legally. And it's a very slow process.
What are you afraid of?
I'm afraid that as a country, we won't be able to handle the influx of so many people coming from other countries.
Governor, what do you do about that?
Well, you enforce the law. And we talked about this before, and it applies the same thing as guns. There's laws on the books. The government is inept at doing their job. For 30 years, we've been being told, that we have these laws and we're not enforcing them. We have people coming over the border. How is it that Federal Express can track a package and tell you anywhere it's going to be? You go on your computer, right, and you track the package. Yet when someone comes in here with a visa, we lose 40% of the illegal immigration in this country comes from not being able to track people when they come in on a visa and they overstay.
Let's have Amazon.com keep track of people.
I think Federal Express is better.
Okay. All right.
So what question would you have to him, to the governor, about immigration? Frank.
Governor, what would be the first thing on your agenda when you look at immigration? What would you take first thing right out of the box?
First thing out of the box, you do 4 things right away, very quickly. First is you make sure that you put fencing or walling in the places where there's big urban areas where we need to get those folks controlled. Second, put FBI, DEA, and ATF agents in with the Border Patrol agents to make sure that they can interdict the drugs and the guns that are coming across. They're the experts at it. We should have them doing it. Third, let's use drones and electronic cameras along the border in those difficult areas so we can put human resources in the right place. And fourth, and most important, we need to use E-Verify. Employers are part of the problem here. They're hiring illegal, cheaper labor to make more money. And we're not criticizing business. What I would do as president is, the fine for that, if you hire someone illegally, you wind up paying double whatever your profit was. We start doing that to business. The only reason these folks are coming here is to work. And if they know they can't get a job, then they won't come.
Do you guys agree? Yes. How many of you agree with what he said? Raise your hands if you agree. It's not bad.
Mm-hmm. You were talking about the ICE agents and the Border Patrol agents. We've got a lot of them down there right now. The problem is, and this goes back to your earlier point, they're getting word from Washington, D.C., you know, you don't have to enforce all the laws. Some, you know, let a lot of them go.
Well, this is why it makes a difference who the President of the United States is, how competent you are, but also what's your commitment to enforcing the law. When you take the oath of office, I took one as governor of New Jersey, you say, I enforce the laws of the state of New Jersey, not enforce the laws I like. But you enforce all the laws. And the problem, and I think why people are so frustrated, is that the government's inept at doing this and are unwilling to do it.
B, what would you ask him?
Immigration still?
Or
sure.
You can expand it if you want.
Well, I mean, you actually answered my question a while ago, and that was to what you were going to do with the companies as well, the ones that are hiring, because now we're seeing a lot of the companies going elsewhere. You know, on the news the other day, Oreo's taking their companies and moving it to, you know, one of their factories to Mexico. Right. How can we stop that and keep the companies here in the States and keep the jobs here?
The way we have to do it first is put the American worker first and make sure if we protect them by making sure that these laws are enforced, we can do that. Second thing is we need to do more on energy. We're not doing enough in energy in this country. So the big costs of manufacturing are labor and energy. So let's drive those energy costs down by developing more oil and more natural gas, drive our prices down. That's the way we compete better with the Mexicans or the Chinese, is to drive our energy costs down. We can do that now because of all the natural gas and the oil that we have in this country. But we don't. We have the president saying he doesn't want the Keystone Pipeline. We have him making it harder for us to be able to explore for energy. It makes costs stay artificially high, and then we can't be competitive. This is what I believe. I believe with American ingenuity and with American effort that we can compete with anybody around the world if the government stops tying our hands behind our back on energy.
I always want to know, do you guys agree with that? Yes or no? Do you think we've got the best workers across the globe? Yes or no?
Yes.
Do you think we've got the best ingenuity?
Yes.
So then why are we failing? Why are we failing?
The regulations that are put upon corporations right now, so that's why they have to go overseas. Cheaper labor.
So what do we do with regulations?
Do what I did in New Jersey. First executive order I signed as governor of New Jersey was freezing any new regulation from any department or agency for 90 days, and then sent my lieutenant governor out to public meetings with businesses, in public, so everybody could hear it. What are these regulations that stop you from developing new jobs and stop you from growing your company? And then she came back after 90 days, and we got rid of 1/3 of the regulations of my predecessor in the first year. If I'm president, that's the exact same thing I will do. Executive order number 1 will be stop them from regulating for 90 days. Go out and talk to the real people in America who are creating jobs and say, what can we do to make it easier for you? And then, with the stroke of a pen, come back and do it. Picture me in the Oval Office the first day, January 20th to 17. That executive order is on my desk, as are the executive orders to repeal. Thank you. To repeal the illegal executive orders this president has done to expand the size and scope of government and have it too much in your life.
He's got a pen. Here's my phone. We're going to take a quick time out, and on the other side, you guys can ask the governor any question in the world, and I got a feeling they're going to be good ones.
Good.
You stick around for that?
Absolutely.
All right. You too, Frank. All right. Straight ahead, he got the boot for breaking the rules. Watch this.
Excuse me, sit down. You weren't called. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Go back to Univision.